I'm ready to pull the pin, roll the hand grenade down the middle of a party, and then see who wants to get into it.
Time for Wine Talks with Paul K.
Fascinating story.
This is Robert Mondavi from the Michael Mondavi Winery.
I taste a lot of wine.
Having a conversation with Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary,
Michael Silacci,
Opus One Winery.
Incredible conversation with Dr. Mia Ruth.
No matter what, you're definitely going to feel better.
Sit back and grab a glass. It's Wine Talks with Paul K.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today in beautiful Southern California. About to have a conversation with Keith Saarloos, however you want to say it. Wine Talks, of course, available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you hang out for your podcasting. And always sponsored by the original Wine of the Month Club, now sporting the Sweet and Rosé series of wines. But not why we're here. We're here to talk to Keith about all things wine. Already had a stimulating conversation off camera. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is truly a pleasure. This
Pretty
is
cool
amazing.
place, huh?
I love it. I love it. I walked in, saw graffiti. I saw, what does it say on the side of the Dom?
Dom was a tagger.
Right there, you had me, and I'm like, oh, I'm home. This is comfortable. It feels great.
You are the only person that's accolades.
Yeah.
The only person that's noticed that.
Really?
At the end cap there.
That's the best part.
I know. It's
like
so
that
funny.
was the one when you walk in, the artist is going to put their most important piece where it punches you right in the face. And I saw that and I took a picture of it and I'm like, I'm home.
And we don't know that Dom Perignon was not a tagger. Right.
Well, you have to tag the bottle. I mean,
something. That's
yeah.
right.
I've signed a lot of bottles. But thank you for having me. This is a rare treat.
Well, you
Appreciate
drove
it.
down from San Ynez, a couple-hour drive to come down on the show. I appreciate it.
The most beautiful drive in the world.
And you heard your buddy Matt Kaner on the show, and
I did.
You are the second guest in this new studio.
I feel
it's unbelievable.
I feel very welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
This setup's amazing.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me.
So you came from San Ynez because you're making wine up there.
Yes, we are.
But that's not how you started this group. You're from here.
Yeah. So
you're
born and raised Southern California, Bellflower, California, the friendly city. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's a plug for Dan Coops.
That's true.
There it is. And my parents grew up there. It was known as Dairy Valley. Went to high school there. Basically, my entire world was as far as I could ride my BMX bike, right? So
those days was a long way.
Long way. So we could make it to Seal Beach. We could make it, maybe to Whittier up the riverbed, which was really the freeway of bikes. And then, then when I was 16, we had the original business supported the dairy supply side of it. And then as the dairies moved out and homes moved in, we turned into lawn and garden supply. And I was 16, somebody threw me a clipboard and a list of deliveries to make, and I was, I passed my test at 8 a.m. By 9 a.m. and I was in a truck, and just basically I got paid to explore and make deliveries all over Southern California. So just even coming here, it's like I knew where to eat, I knew where to get off. The Thomas Brothers, sitting in the back. But I'm a Southern California kid that got pulled to the San Ynez Valley, Los Olivos.
I'm going to stop right there a second. Isn't that the greatest job? Because I was a delivery guy too.
The greatest.
And you learn the back roads, you learn the restaurants. Yep. I put 50,000 miles on my car when my first sales job, and I'll never forget what I learned and who I met and the places I went.
The fact that you, like for me, being 16 years old, being trusted with deliveries for a family business, enough money in my pocket to go eat wherever I wanted. I knew where to get off. I learned how to judge cars. I ride motorcycles now, and you like if I see a type of car, I can almost tell the proclivity of what's going to happen. And then basically got to know every nook and cranny. And you learn how to handle yourself because you learn customer service. You are the backdoor salesperson.
That's right.
You are prideful in what you do, and then after you make a delivery and you go on to the next one, you're happy again, and it's freedom. It was great. I mean, it made me totally unemployable.
I learned great respect for semi-tractors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those guys, that work they do, and I worked Vernon, and I worked South Central, I worked all that area, and you go, wow, these guys, just let them have they're there right away.
Give them
man.
the space. And if you know how to drive with them,
yes,
they'll take you anywhere.
Yep.
You'll never get a ticket, and you'll get about 80 miles a gallon. Because if you tuck in between two and just roll, you're great.
Cross country.
Cross country.
It's funny, it's interesting you're talking about that because you are a salesman. You are the face of the company, regardless of whether you sold the goods or not. And here you are running your own winery.
Yeah.
What's the name of the winery?
Saarloos and Sons, which is really the name of a trucking company.
Almost.
It's really that.
Saarloos et Fils. Wow.
Yeah.
So, and this is San Ynez.
Specifically Los Olivos. Saarloos and Sons is really a to know about what we do. My grandfather lost his father when he was young, and he was kind of on his own, Grapes of Wrath style, no pun intended, from Iowa to California. And my dad and my uncle worked with my grandpa when it was a dairy supply business. As that transformed, they all worked together in a room pretty much like this that had no walls but 3 desks in it. And one was sales, one was, president, one was this, and you would come in and yell at whoever you needed to yell at, but everybody else in the room heard it.
Yeah, wow.
And then, I worked with my dad, my uncle, my grandpa. Me and my brother are 2 different people, but very similar. And Saarloos and Sons was kind of an homage to that. And, I really started this winery probably in the, lowest point of my life, which sounds very weird to say. But it was Providence. It was, This was, if everything else didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have, number one, been there and then been forced into doing this.
Wow.
So Saarloos and Sons is kind of the, we're very family centric. I put all pictures of people I love on the bottle. People who are a part of it. My cousins are a part of it. They have their own brand, Wayland, 2 doors down.
This is downtown Los Olivos, or tasting room, or that's your
our tasting
office?
Room. That's my office and tasting room.
Yeah, right.
And then we farm 2 vineyards and 2 different AVAs, and one of them's in the Ballard Canyon AVA, which is, we have great neighbors with Honada's in there, and Stoltman and Beckman and Larner and a bunch of other great people. And so and we were part of the map signing, we have established an AVA, which was really cool. And then
You're
our
part
other
of that establishment. That's tough. That's
Wes Hagen wrote
long
it.
haul to do.
Yeah, Wes Hagen wrote it formerly from Clos Pepe and now at Ontivero Cellars.
Mm-hmm.
Wes is he's the next person that should sit here because he's the Google of wine, where you ask him one little question and you get 30 pages of answers, but you only need one. I love Wes, but the other one's El Camino Real, which is on the corner of Zaca Station Road, 101, 154, just down the road from Firestone, the godfather really of the valley.
Yeah.
Fess Parker, Demetria, basically covering,
As a region, has Ballard Canyon is
we're going to talk about this.
It's certainly a buzzword of people in the trade that Ballard Canyon is it's like saying Anderson Valley, this area that's becoming known for its own thing. How long was the AVA? Was it years ago?
I think, it's scary that it's probably a decade now.
Because you have to tell the feds. You got to prove to the feds there's something different about it that makes
you have to prove. I learned so much through that process, and soil composition, history, the reasons where and why, what makes you different than just over the hill. Why can you draw this little map line using no words, but only directions, and reach this point and then go due south here we physically walk the whole perimeter to really draw it on the map. And, an AVA I think is important because you could say, where do you live? And you could say California, and California means a lot of different things, but you can say, I live in LA County. Means a lot of different things. When you get down to, I live in this town, this city, this neighborhood, this block, this house.
Right. And
what makes you special? Because really, we're getting my not my philosophy, but my thought of, I love both of our properties very much. Ballard Canyon and El Camino are night and day different. And even our vineyard on Ballard Canyon, it's probably the most photographed vineyard.
Really?
Yeah. It's we're on the cover of the phone book. When I go pay my taxes,
we're on the cover of the phone book. Says no one ever.
Yeah, but that was a big deal to my old man, right? And then the Rose book about the region, he put us on the cover, which was really unbelievable because it used to be a apple orchard. But telling the story of a place is, when you read books and you're seeing the person go through trials and tribulations, if it's taken out of time, it doesn't really mean anything. But if you read Huck Finn and know what's happening when that's happening, all of a sudden the region, what's happening around it, the actual person. You can see how they're shaped by all of those things. Like we release one wine. We release our Syrah every year, which is the same clone grown on 3 different hills within, from here to that wall, separate from each other, but one's a big terrace, one's kind of a rolling hill. And we farm them the same way, we make them the same way, and they all taste differently. So explaining terroir to someone becomes very easy, sense of place. Because I would say, so terroir is real. And they go, okay, what's that mean? I said, well, you have 3 kids, same DNA, same house, same food, same family.
That's a really good explanation.
Right. And do you expect them to be the same personality? Right. And the answer is no. And I said, well, then how can you expect any of this to be the same? We're telling one story from our property, once a year. And I get to live in a valley that's full of, punks and miscreants. Like there's no corporatization of where we are. It's pretty hardcore.
It's kind of interesting.
Sorry about a long answer to a short question.
No. Hey, you're the guest. If I talk too much, what my test is when I decide whether the show, I'm conducting the show properly, is I'll pick random spots after I release it and go, you're talking too much, because it's not about me. It's about you guys. We want to tell you stories.
I just want to come talk to you, man.
So I appreciate that. But something that's interesting you just said about this appellation, the terroir, is why back in the history of time, and let's just pick Burgundy as probably the most prominent example, where the monks were trying to find these little pieces of land, and they got it. You said you walked the perimeter of Ballard Canyon, and here these monks are like, 3 steps. They go, the soil's different over here.
The thing that I feel like I get to be a part of, and the timelessness of it. I can launch into Ballard Canyon very easy, where I could say, with all of our neighbors, okay, at 2:30 today, the wind's going to blow from here to there. There's this different soil composition. It starts from here, goes all the way down to here. This is the lowest point. This is where the fog goes. This is where the sun rises. This is the warmest part of the vineyard. This is, and you only get that from time, because a lot of this industry is someone who did well at something else, and now they're going to impose that same level of success upon the wine world at all costs. And okay, but
you're right.
Fine. But I'm not really interested in that. The part that gets interesting is, they have enough money, they buy a piece of property, they're going to plant the varietals they want on that. And right there, it's like your kid's your kid could have been a world-class hockey player, and you're making them, be a gymnast. Yes. And all of a sudden you're like, it's not going to go well. Right. But for us, we came into this because we wanted to grow something from the, my dad passed away 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
It was a big tree that fell in my forest, and my grandfather, who grew up on a farm in Iowa, left it to the older brothers because, there was a bunch of, grapes of wrath, and was on his own. But he always viewed farming as a noble profession. And around the dairy industry and a lot of the families that I grew up around, same thing. And because, 1.5% of this population's feeding the rest of us 3 times a day,
right?
And growing something from the ground, raising cattle, was just a dream of my grandfather's. And I always say, be careful with what you fall in love with, because that's the best version of you while you're doing it, and your kids will pick up on that real quick. And so my dad loved baseball, and he loved working, and I, as an idiot, picked work, and my brother picked baseball.
Well, let's suspend that for a second, but you said something important, particularly the part about
stop me, because
success of people in the successful world, and they want to buy this lifestyle, and we'll get into that conversation. But when you said that, this is not an easy job. Farming is not easy. Farming is historical. Farming takes experience for it to get better and better. And there's a story of Fowles Winery in Australia, and Matt Fowle is this wonderfully masculine guy who literally hunts his own lunch,
Yeah.
And his winery was a Coke executive who thought he could apply Coke beverage marketing, guerrilla marketing to wine business, and it promptly went out of business because that's not what it is. It's a passion for doing this job and presenting the product that you best represents where it's from. That's how you win, in my opinion.
That only makes it worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it leads to this whole idea. We go to Napa Valley with Los Olivos, wherever we go, and we go, oh, what a lifestyle. Or we watch Sideways. There's San Ynez Valley and the Hitching Post, whatever. And we want that, and so we think we can
Why?
buy that.
No. The question is why?
Why do we want that?
Yeah.
Right.
Why do you want it?
That's the question. And then you can't just buy it, though. I mean, you can buy it physically, but you can't. Don't you have to earn this lifestyle, the idea of the passion for it?
I think so. I come from. I've never went wine tasting really before I opened a winery.
That's pretty interesting.
Ever, right?
Yeah. It wasn't part of the thing.
It wasn't, and so I've come into this in a very different way.
Yeah.
I think than most people have, and most people when they see someone on stage singing to a billion people. I was thinking about this actually 2 days ago, where what percentage of the people in the audience wish they were the person on stage? Probably, I don't know, 10%. Maybe it's more. I don't know. Right. But when you get into any form of like real art, the part that's draws you to it is rarely the thing that is the reason that person's on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you locked yourself in a room when you're 13 years old with a pawn shop guitar and beat on it like it owed you money, right? And you just never stopped. Then eventually one day, maybe you'll make it to that stage. But when you do it, it'll probably be the least interesting part of your journey. And
that's a good point.
I understand why people like this lifestyle because it looks really neat from the outside. But usually the people that are doing that, they're paying someone to come up with their labels. They're paying someone to make their wine. They're paying someone to farm it for them. And it's like, well, if you didn't write the songs, why do you get your name on the album?
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a bit of a different area where, up until my dad passed away, he was the guy on the tractor. Just always. He didn't get into this because he wanted anybody to know who he was or, my dad never made a bottle of wine in his life.
He wanted to do the work.
He wanted to grow something from the ground, which, is a transformative thing.
Yeah.
Because you have to be optimistic. You have to get up and earn it. You have to be there when things go wrong. So God Made a Farmer is probably one of the greatest poems ever written because you have to be tough as an anvil and soft as shit all the time.
And humble as hell.
And speaking
of,
if you're not humble, if you're not humble, you sure will be soon.
Yeah, right.
And what I like about that is taking something from like right now where we're pruning and we're making 23 different decisions per vine times 2,000 vines an acre times 50 acres. We're making all of these farming decisions, and we're trying to get that fruit from a bud and get to watch it, right?
Yeah.
Bud to a grape we pick, and then take that off and not screw it up.
Yeah.
I always think like coming here, you're sharing so much information and stories and things with so many people about something they can't taste until they come and taste it.
That's
right. And it's like saying, oh, this song is like this, but you can't hear it yet. And the beauty that I think is associated with that is mostly, it's kind of it's describing more what we're doing out in the vineyard than what we did in a winery. Right?
For sure.
You're always talking about the place. You're always talking about who's around it, what was happening, context. Rarely did, sometimes you get, is this stainless steel or, and then you're like, it doesn't matter,
It doesn't matter.
But what we're always describing is the work part of it, the beauty part of it. And that's the thing I think my dad fell in love with, and I love doing it alongside of him. We're still at, my wife, my mother, my daughter, my son are still at the 3 a.m. picks, and we're still doing it because the hard work, the stuff everybody pays other people to do is the stuff we love.
It's you think about that lifestyle idea, this by the lifestyle, and I love it when friends go to Napa. Let's just pick Napa because that's everybody's destination. And they see Dave Deldato's giant monstrosity, that Persian, whatever that thing is that guy built. And I kind of go, that's not what it is. And they talk about how great the stuff is. And it's not that. And the humility, that's not humility. It's
hubris.
Right?
Well, it's hubris. to me, it's the overcompensation of knowing how much you actually were involved in it to do it. Like
That's true.
Like going back to the music analogy, if I go, Jackson Pollock's one of my favorite artists, and I don't see him really enjoying to go to a art show,
right?
Because what he wants to do is back in a barn,
right?
And I think those are the true artists, right? The people that are almost entirely impossible to love, and they're doing it for a great reason. I mean, you brought up Wink, right? Me and my cousin were talking about that last week, and I said, I outlasted him. It's true. Being big and being whatever doesn't mean it's better. It just means
there's a Ponzi scheme anyway.
Well, yeah.
You can listen to the rant if you
want. I can't wait. Listen, anybody like going hard on stuff, I will listen to every line of it.
But there's something about it, and I learned this from the Gladstrips and that Nazi thing, and it kind of hit me in the middle of the conversation, what you're doing and the history of what you're doing. Now, we don't have all the history that the French do and even other parts of the world have in wine, but we're creating that now, and it's coming from people like you who are farming the land, who can tell the stories of the things they've learned from the land. Yeah. It's not the things you've learned from, the fermentation, using stainless steel or oak. It's what you've learned from the land that makes the difference. So I thought, wow.
The steak doesn't come from a herd, it comes from a cow.
It comes from the cow, right?
And there's a lot, with anything, I always say, exalt the farmer, because whatever restaurant is, 3 stars or whatever, where they'd probably either are raising their own cattle or they have a relationship with someone. And the farmer's doing 90% of that work so they can sear it on 2 sides and serve. Because, food is not about let's hide it. It's about authenticity, right? The best meal of your life is someone that you love, that cooks you something that they thought of you and made it.
That's real.
And, for us, that's like, I don't sell to stores. I don't sell to restaurants. Every one of our bottles goes directly to someone that's either come in and tasted it or has been there before and has joined our family, and because of that, I know who I work for. I work for them and them alone. And there's something really beautiful about that, and there's something real freeing about it. And when you know the people you work for like that, it's like, I don't mind working 3 80-hour weeks this week.
How did the guy from the Friendly City, end up
end
up
with
this philosophy? Story? How do we end up in San Ynez or Los Olivos farming? You said that it was almost serendipitous.
Yeah. So my old man and my mom, the saint, the real saint of this story. It's like, every Saarloos man is an idiot, and every woman he's married to deserves way better than him.
We can define that around
that's easy.
Our house, actually.
Yeah. Just maniacs going to work every day and then coming home and their wives, pulling us back.
Had that discussion last night,
yes,
actually.
That's a good one. But, when you're full of passion and you're doing things like that, then, my old man bought a piece of property on top of Ballard Canyon that was just a hunk of shit, and it had a Fuji apple orchard on it, and he was pumped and ready to rock, and we farmed those apples all year, and had a neighbor that said, I'll buy them all, and he was with a big, huge, now a very big grocery store.
I have to tell you, my father-in-law, who fought in World War II, won't buy Fuji apples because he thinks they're Japanese. But go ahead.
It's true. Well, they're good. But went to deliver them, got them turned away, like at the dock,
Really?
And came back and shoved them on the ground, watched cattle eat them. And there's, a lot of crying and throwing up, and what are we going to do now? And all the terrible stuff. And I was still living down here in Southern California and kind of commuting back and forth. And my mom, again, the hero of the story, says, why don't you I don't know what we're going to do. All that, normal psycho things. Of course. Why don't you tear it out and put in grapes? Seems like people want those, and went down the street and asked Rusak, hey, if we plant fruit, will you buy from us? Yeah, sure. And that launched the ships. And,
wow.
And we planted.
Just that simple. I mean, I don't know if you do that today in today's environment. We walk some, hey, we buy some grapes from us.
We were that dumb. That's the truth, naive, and planted them, planted all our vines and
which isn't cheap.
No, it's cheaper then. But planted all of our vines and started farming them. And it's kind of like, people, weren't you scared and all that? And number one, that was a burn the ships moment. When you tear all the apple trees out and they're in a pile and they burn for a month, I mean, it's like when you land on the new world, you go like this. Well, which way are we going? How are we getting home? And the ships are on fire, and you're like, well, not that way. So we're going to go through.
Wow.
And no, we're just too dumb to quit. That's another great Saarloos term. But we farmed them, and my wife and I said, as soon as you're pregnant, we're out of here, because we're in Southern California, but we knew we wanted to raise kids up in this is pre-internet. This is Amazon delivering there. We had electricity. That was about it.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Uh-huh. And hard floors. And we did have a potbelly stove in the barn we lived in. And pregnant and had the kid, baby grew up, laying right between us in a bedroom, and I was up picking and working side by side with my dad and Pedro and Alfonso and another small crew, and then would deliver our fruit to wineries who purchased it from us. And
that's amazing.
The one thing, it's like no one gave me an instruction manual, and I brought a kid home, and it was like, how do you raise a kid? The answer is no one knows.
No one knows.
And so we do a lot of scientific wild ass guesses, and we do things that seem right, and never taken a class. I've read a few books, but mostly it's, hey, what do you think? And consensus of like, well, let's try this out and see what works. And
I wonder what other careers or industries, because there's always the competing philosophies about being, let's say, a cellar rat and just earning your way through. And there's many.
Well, that's a totally different job. We're talking the farming side of it.
Same with the farm side. Like, do you have to go to school? I mean, somebody sent me an email today with a video of some advanced bio invasion, not invasion, but a product that you put in the soil. And I don't know what I didn't understand it myself, but really, I mean, it's such an organic, and I hate to use the word like that, but such an organic job, and it's so much about history and trial and error and trying to make it work.
I always describe it as being a great fisherman, right? A goal of a great fisherman, or what makes a great fisherman. A great fisherman is someone who goes out and keeps doing it, and then has a proclivity for, the wind blows like this, and I've had pretty good luck doing this, and you should probably use this about this time of day, and where should I cast? Just like, underneath that dock or whatever, right? And it doesn't mean you're going to catch fish every cast, but it means that you have a better chance of doing well. And I think with farming, the crop grows best in the farmer's shadow. It's always going to be like that.
Always.
If you're going to pay someone to clean your car, they're not going to exceed the dollar amount you paid them to do it. They're going to probably do a little less than that's profit. But when it's for you, and when it's for customers, and you've already been humbled by being a failed apple farmer,
right? There's
nothing you wouldn't do.
That's huge, yeah.
And it happened that way because it had to.
Huge lesson.
And so long story short was farming, selling to other people. I was up there, we had a couple coffee shops and trying to make it and live there. And 2008 rolled around, and staring at my wife in the kitchen, telling her she deserves better than this. And she's like, in the same way my mom said, why aren't you playing grapes? Seems like people want those. My wife goes, seems like you should do the wine thing. And I was like, I'm like, I can't do that, because to me, you have the Clendenins and the Lindquists and, the Firestone. It's like, these people, I don't know anything. These are here we are, And she goes, well, like people like it. And, we were talking about Mathew Kaner and Silver Lake Wine and meeting them at just the right time. And they're, hey, this is good.
They were the inspiration. This was inspiration for you.
It was, I think the right answer is, I wouldn't say my wife says it's self-deprecating, but no one hates me more than me, in all honesty, anywhere in the world. And I say that with humility because I know who I am, and every day I try to get up and bury that person. And if I can do it, I'm not really impressed by it in general. I don't say, oh, look.
Interesting introspection.
Yeah. I mean, I could go into a whole other layer of that, but the beauty of it is when you come in humble and not knowing what you're doing and thinking everybody else, this is how I viewed it anyway. Everybody else knows 10 times more than me. But what they can't do is outwork me. And so if I work, 8 to 12 hours, if my day is half day, 12 hours, and I did that for years. I said, I'm gaining 4 hours every day on everybody. Mm-hmm. And I for 4 years, did everything I needed to do before 11 a.m. Then I would pour till 5 and then start up again and keep going, because this is how I was going to feed my daughter and feed my son. And that, if somebody says, why did you do this? Mm-hmm. The answer is to feed 2 people, to give my wife the life I promised her, and everything else doesn't really matter.
Does she like the farmer's wife life?
Yeah, but my wife is her own absolute force of nature, same as my mom.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law, because we're not easy people to be married to. My brother played baseball.
That's my wife. She'll tell you the same thing.
Well, yeah, and usually passionate people aren't. Yeah. They're very difficult to love. And my wife has never told me I'm right when she thought I was wrong. And she will be the first person that if I have a question, I'll go talk to. And even more so now, because here's the truth, she always has my best interests in mind. Because if you appreciate what I'm doing, I'll keep giving nonstop. Mm-hmm. So growing, when we were farming and making that transition to, I don't want to sell fruit to other people, because I was in charge of selling all the fruit as well. And I said, well, if I just keep this, well, then, okay, I can make this much wine, and kind of started figuring that out. And then now I'm really pleased to say, between, Windmill Ranch, I promised my dad, I didn't know he was going to pass away, but I promised him one day, I won't sell one piece of fruit out of this vineyard somewhere. And I have the photo when I took it, and he goes, wouldn't that be a night? Wouldn't that be amazing? Mm-hmm. And going from 0 to I don't sell fruit out of that vineyard. It all goes into a Saarloos & Sons bottle.
Wow.
And then our other vineyard, between myself and Brad and Greg, I think we sold 7 tons, and all the rest goes into, primarily Saarloos & Sons, but our wine. And so now I took the hard road, took the pro route that I didn't know we needed to take. So we're still out there farming it. We're still growing it. We're still making it. The only place you can buy it is our tasting room and online.
Wow.
And
that's a tough model.
But I'm
talking business now. It's a tough model.
It was tough because I came from a distribution background.
Yeah.
And I saw little guys get eaten. And I never want, and one of the famous stories around our family is my dad thought he was going to get an award from a customer for being like distributor of the year or something to him. And they lost half their business in one day. If they were doing $100,000, they just, my family's company became a $50,000 business.
Wow.
One day. And those were always stories that were told, around the table, just like, what happened at work today? Well, probably not going to get new shirts.
My ass kicked yesterday.
Yeah. Hey, we're probably not going to get new shirts around here for a while.
Right.
Stuff like that. And because of that, it was like, I wanted to be, like we were talking about, like growing up, in Southern California. One of the things I truly miss is, you earned your spot. Like I love to skateboard, surf, snowboard, ride motorcycle, whatever. But you earned your place, mm-hmm. and you looked up to people, and they kind of decided if you made it to the next level or not. It's like street jujitsu, right? At that point.
That's true.
And
I still skateboard, by the way.
Do you really? That's amazing. We got to talk about that. But the part of it, like, I respect my elders. I want
your dad?
Huh?
You miss your dad?
Every day. I can't talk about
Was he the
him.
guy that understood this?
No.
Like my dad passed in June, and every day doesn't go by that I don't want to call him and say, you won't believe who I spoke with today, or who, what I learned today from the wine side.
You just lost him?
Yeah, June.
I can give you the best. Here's the only advice I can give you is, if you were close to your father, my dad was pretty tough on us, being a good dad. But my brother and I were vicious competitors to each other.
Really?
Right. Oh, we'd punch in the face. We'd throw each other through walls, break TVs, and then you'd go, just fix it, and then walk out back, go outside. That was it. My mom's the youngest of 6 kids, so she was kind of used to it. But as my dad became the person he was supposed to be, my dad was president of our business. But then when my dad found the Valley and lived out his father's dream by doing it, I saw my dad become the person he was always meant to be.
Changed him.
Not changed him, but he became generous.
Yeah.
Not with altruistic. He was the guy that would stop, flat tire, didn't know the person. How's it going? Invite people, but giving wine out of the tasting room. Here, just take this. That became everybody's dad in the Valley, kind of a thing. And what I miss is having someone I trust implicitly, someone that maybe my relationship with him, it was just like talking to myself that was 22 years older than me. Same guy, same personality, same everything. Mm-hmm. And there he was. I got to pick up a magic phone and talk to myself and get the best possible advice from 22 years. Not how I'm feeling today,
right? Not
what I need to do tomorrow, but that long.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And one day the phone, didn't pick up.
Yep.
And but I would we have a family creed. We put it on a wine, which is honor and prepare, which is we live to honor those that have come before us, and we prepare the way for those yet to come. That is what our business is. So I have people I love on there.
Great outlook.
Thank you. And I have my kids on it, and kids and my brother's kids I'm preparing for. It's not about me, right? Where most people want to come in, hey, this is my name on this bottle.
Right.
Saarloos is not me. I'm a son's. And it's about everybody else.
Feast, yeah.
And that's how we feed people. That's how we take care of people, blah, blah, blah. But the advice part of it is the person I want to become is the person that my dad always thought I could be. The highest level of myself. The highest level. Mm-hmm. The person who I like to fight. I love it. If there's a controversial subject, I'm ready to pull the pin, roll the hand grenade down the middle of a party, and then see who wants to get into it. I love it. But take the high road. Hey man, view's better, right? Don't get down there. Take the high road. Let it go. This will pay off somewhere down the road.
That was your dad.
Yeah. And he instilled that into me.
Yeah.
And my kids know him. And since losing him, my brother and I, we're taking care of mom, though mom doesn't need it. Our conversation was post-traumatic ascension. We're going to do it. Let's go. Now, no one's out there holding the shield for us anymore.
That's true.
I could tell you.
It's a true thing.
I don't know if I wanted on this,
Even if you didn't feel like that was the case when they were alive, you realize it later. This was, that they were the shield, that now you don't have a shield.
I lead blocker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's up to me.
Yep.
And up to us. And
he prepared you for that, though.
So, it sounds, you don't really become a man until the day you lose your dad. Yeah. It's a weird, it's a great way to hear it. And when you said that, was I prepared? Was I ready? No, but I was prepared.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, with him being gone, I knew I had to be in the tractor seat. I knew I had to be out. So my life shifted from just selling wine, making wine, doing this, to now I need to sit in the king's chair and be out there getting this ready, preparing, making sure this happens. Took on all that farming aspect of it. And it was hard, real hard, because now it was, being out there thinking, 10 steps ahead, learning that I need to be able to depend on people, giving people an opportunity for them to be dependent upon.
And missing that maybe at the end, like with my father, he would still tell stories. I have all his stories on my phone. Every time I start up his mouth.
That's like gold.
And I had the huge honor to put him on the podcast once, just in his house and telling stories, business stories mostly. But you don't realize that when the shield has gone completely. Yeah. Maybe it was only 5 or 10% effectual because he was older. He was 93 when he passed away. So he couldn't articulate all the thoughts he wanted to, but he was in good health and everything. But when, like the other day, my parents were huge antique collectors. They taught me to go to the auctions. They went to Europe. They bought half a container of stuff. They auctioned it off. They made some little money, whatever. But just the chase.
Yeah, they're hustlers.
And the chase, and the knowledge base to know. And I brought home this piece of silver, which of the 3 kids, I'm the only one that really appreciated those things because I was the kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, like you said, you're the most like your father. There's the picture of him handing me a bottle of Clos de Val, actually, which is what that is.
I mean, if you just full stop, look what that picture is.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's your father handing you a bottle of wine. What are you doing today?
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's all those wines there too. They're the ones that he chose. So the other day I was my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm polishing the silver." Says no one ever, right? Mm-hmm. When was the last time? My mom would have freaked if she saw me like break out of silver polish. And the thing that disappointed me the most is this one piece I was polishing. I never got the story. It's a crazy piece of silver. It looks like it's from Thailand or somewhere else. It's a beautiful piece, but I never asked them the story of this one. I got most of the stories, but not this story. And I feel like I got cheated out of this story, amongst others. So it's a huge loss, and you have to. But you're right. You become in the king's chair. It's a great way to put it. Yeah. Speaking of the king's chair, we were talking about this off camera a little bit.
Yeah.
And he had a great definition for what is in the glass.
Oh yeah.
Because what you and I are trying to tell, and the Mathew Kaners of the world, and many other people have been on the show lately that are anti-Cali Red, Snoop Dogg, and Martha Stewart Chardonnay.
Well, hold on. Here's the thing though. Those are great gateways.
They are. I agree with that.
And you know
I
what?
totally agree with that.
If Snoop Dogg brought you to wine, because I've seen it myself. I mean,
I want you to roll the pin and let's see if it goes off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds funny, but I've been pouring wine for so long that the kids who were eating cupcakes at our tasting room are now in our wine club.
Yep.
Right. And I've saw a couple who grew up where I grew up. I saw their first date, and now they have kids, right? But now they went from, what's this about, to they're hunting. They're hunters. Yeah. They love this thing, and it has made their life better. We had someone that came in that just needed to use the bathroom, stayed, got locked into wine, and all of a sudden we got to give them, which you've done probably a million times, hopefully what this podcast does, is you hand somebody the light bulb and they go, oh my gosh. And they just put it above their head and they're like, holy cow, what are we talking about here? There's all of this? Holy cow. It's like turning someone onto a genre of music they've never heard. And if Cali Red does that, fine.
Well, we've always had, I can't believe how fast it's going.
I don't have anywhere to go.
We've always had entry-level wines. I mean, sure. My father stopped in 1974 in Napa Valley.
Sadly, the Cali Red's probably better than the early 70s.
Well, he stopped at Trinchero at Sutter Home and had a glass of pink wine with Bob Trinchero. He's like, Bob's like, what should I do with this stuff? And that was the entry-level wine of the 70s, right? To the extent that, it caused...
Rosé was pizza wine.
Yeah, so I agree. There's maybe my not disdain, but
I hate the fact that it's called wine, though. That's the hard part.
Maybe that's the best definition. Like, why do they call it wine? Just call it beverage.
So bringing up Matt Kaner, I don't know if he came up with this or I did, but it's if you're drinking wine as a beverage, you've missed 90% of the point.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Sorry. So because you were on to something.
But there is this. So let's just fast forward that we've got these people. You've educated somebody. The people that are eating cupcakes and Twinkies in their tasting room and now like going, well, there's something about this, and that's all we try to do, right? We want people to experience what we think we experience.
They knock, we open the door.
And so defining that is what I thought you did a great job when we were sitting in the conference room, because I ask that question all the time. What is it? Why don't we get so excited about Maui Blanc, the pineapple wine? Why don't we get so excited about fermented, apple cider? Mm-hmm. Why don't we get so excited about other fruits? There's something about the grape that, and you said it, when it's no longer a grape?
Yeah. So, I would definitely say, I'm an introspective. I want to learn as much as I possibly can, but I'm also farming, and I'm also a pretty spiritual person. So there's a lot of wars going on inside me, but I always think that there's an interesting correlation between growing something from the ground and seeing something come forth. Right now we're pruning. We're making all those decisions, but we're leaving, a bud right here. And I know that everything that every light house payment, every tank of gas, tuition, food, everything in my mind is right inside that bud. So when we have frost, when we have bud break, I'm sleeping in a car out there because that's what's standing between me and total failure. I got to get the frost protection on. I got to right time everything.
Talk about humility.
Well,
But go ahead.
Yeah, it's true, but it made it worth it, right? And so when you finally get to that point of harvest, where you took something from nothing, helped bring it forth, gave order to chaos, because I think that's probably, I'm only good at two things. One is creative problem solving, and two, having chaos go like this, and when it comes through me, it comes out like
chaos being the infinite variables in a farm.
The vineyard hates you.
The thing that
everything hates
have
you.
to do.
Everything.
Yeah.
Vines don't grow like this.
Yeah.
They grow like this every which way. That's the point of it. And you're training.
Well, how about beneath the soil? The war going on in there.
Everywhere. And you're just kind of in the middle of it. And you're trying to tack based upon wind waves and weather and everything helping, and all your moving sails, you're trying to push this way, trying new things. Let's try this over here. And it's just chaos at all times. But when you get to that point of harvest, it's kind of like missing out on, being pregnant. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's there. There's such a beauty to the process from here to there. And then when you go through the winemaking process, you pick it, you deliver it, you're I think respectful, because you spend all year doing something. You don't want to cloud it up, but you want to give it the best chance of success. All of that
thing. I just said that. I've never heard it that way, but it's like, if you're not doing what you're doing, not to discredit anybody that buys grapes, not to discredit anybody that doesn't pay attention, but it's like birthing a child, but never having the pregnancy.
It's like having a 2-year-old show up at your door like this.
Yeah.
Because really, maybe your first intimacy with that wine is when you pop it and you put a label on it. Maybe. I think there's a lot of that. Especially if your name's on the sign. And that's one of the things I'm very proud about with like Santa Barbara County in general. If the name's on the sign, the person is probably in the building. And that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
So, that's my huge pump for our, band of psychos that is up in Santa Barbara County. It's great. But when you get to that point, there's a point in the winemaking process when you're pressing. You've gone through when it's a red, and you've gone through all the maceration and punch downs and everything else and pump overs and but then the voodoo of yeast has worked its magic and turned sugar into alcohol, and acids are in line, and this and that and the other. And you go to the press, and then all of a sudden it's just wine. And it's as different as a physical form. And then now we're going to release the soul.
Right.
We're going to put that soul in a bottle. And, it sounds weird to say this, but like whiskey is always, how long did it sit in the barrel? And wine is always, how long has it been in the bottle? And to me, that metamorphosis, it's beautiful, because the whole point of it is you can drink it today. We don't sell a wine that you can't drink today. Rip the cork. It's a bad day to be a cork. Zach Santa Cruz said it. I love it, because we're ripping corks today. We're pouring glasses. We're drinking it. And I'm like, do you like it? And yes. It's like, well, you drink it today then. But if you want to see all of those tannic acids form those beautiful long chains, and you want the thread count to go from burlap to silk, that'll take time. And you can jump the line, but it's going to cost you money, because what you're doing is taking care of that bottle, making sure it's preserved, putting in the best possible light, so that when they open it, they're going to get that. That's why, older wines are expensive.
You raise it from a pup.
You're taking care. You're like, I will take this into my charge, right, and I'll keep it here. But to me, always that day when you're pressing and you go, the soul has been released.
Yeah.
You know, and what are we going to do with it now?
That's interesting because I always talk about this.
By the way, I'm excited. I'm saying stuff to you who's been in wine for much longer than I have, new ways or a new perspective.
Because it's a perspective
it's pretty exciting.
That's hard, not everybody can articulate like you're articulating. That's an important thing. But I've always said this about the wine industry, not always, because when I got into it, it was business for me. I was a businessman. I sold copiers for a big company, and I sold software to bigger companies. And then all of a sudden, I'm selling $20 worth of wine. Not even that. It was $5 worth of wine.
Yeah.
Different product.
Believe me,
so you have to learn to appreciate it. But
and you learn to appreciate a customer differently as well.
Totally.
Oh.
Well, I've always been a customer service kind of guy. But the point I'm making is all the things we do today, you're talking about whether it's stainless steel or oak, is just periphery to the process of it changing from one form to another.
Does it matter?
That's the soul of it.
Does it matter what type of guitar and what type of amp this song is being played on?
No. See?
No.
So that's the value of this.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this off camera a little bit. The soul of what wine is.
Yeah.
I believe that the definition I always come up with is like it's an ethereal product that connects you to the soil. If it's a sense of time and place, it should be anyway. Yep. And you should taste that place. You should take you somewhere else when you taste it.
Yep.
And now that's where the Cali Reds and those things can't do that by their nature, but the Winks of the world can't do that by their nature, but you can.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go back biblical a little bit because
but that's also, before you go in the biblical part, which I'm excited to talk about, that also makes us too small to fail. Because when you have invested all of that into it, when I sit here and we're talking about our dads, and you know my voice quivers every time I bring them up, mm-hmm. right? Then pleasure is a form of payment. My buddy Keith Saarloos said it. I'll never forget it. Because you know what? Working alongside your old man for as long as you did, or as long as I did, or being out there and having great stories when we're picking grapes at 3 a.m. and our hands are frozen, or when we go to the winery and we're eating a great lunch, or we're doing that has to be a massive form of payment
mm-hmm.
in doing it. And if you come in with money and say, I want that life, that's tough.
You don't know what the payment's going to be because you don't even know if you really like it.
There you go.
You didn't earn it.
So that was a little bit of a circle around it, but
it's a good point, though. I mean, it's a very valid point.
Yeah, it's the hardest parts of this are the parts that are worth doing, but because they're hard, people tend to pay people to do them for them, and I have found so much pleasure and love, and I've learned so much by being in a tractor mowing or seeding or driving and knowing that everybody behind me is in danger. And if my foot comes off this thing, we've got 2 tons of grapes and it's raining and the hill's going down, all of that stuff, where all of a sudden, if I was still in bed, I would never know anything about that.
That's right.
And I think the wine now embodies that. There is, like, this place has a great vibe, but it's a building. Right? Sticks. But the vibe of here and the people who are a part of it fill the room the rest of the way. Right. You know what I mean? And I think with wine, you get so much of that where it was this, we turned it into that, but along that line, all of that's just getting soaked into it. And, you know, for me, it's why I'll put my dad's face on a label, my mom, my brothers, my kid, and it's like, this is the story of our family right here. And you get to bring it home. And hopefully you share it with someone you love around your table, and then that is complete. That handoff is complete. So go to the biblical stuff.
I tell people all the time, like, well, my dad, like we sold my dad's house. As soon as he passed away, we got a list. We didn't left a list that people came clamoring to buy it. But, you know, the memories, it's like the memories are the memories.
Yeah.
The house is a stick, and somebody's going to tear it down one day. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
It's irrelevant. It's the history and the value you got out of living there, or your parents living there, that matters, and you'll never be able to change that. Even with the Klagstrups, it hit me after they're telling these stories, and they're talking about Attila the Hun, you know, shedding blood in the vineyards of Champagne. Even in World War I, some of the phosphorus tank shells still contaminated the ground. You can't blow. And I thought, wow, that that has to have an influence, whether it's the family that suffered through the wars or whether it's the family, has to have an influence of what they're making.
We went 75th anniversary. We have a wine called Courage, named for my great uncle John, who died D-Day plus 16 in a town called Cherbourg.
Wow.
So a couple years ago, we went to France as a whole family. It was a great trip. We went to Normandy, looked around.
Wow, that's incredible, though, isn't it?
But the thing that blows me away was there are people still making wine that year. Think of that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Think of that.
Yeah.
The fact that Allied invasion, the Nazis coming over the hill, France giving up in 24 hours. This was, other than, Churchill, you get the Russians on the other side, you get us actually getting into this thing. Without those things happening, Man in the High Castle is an amazing book and show, but people were still farming grapes, making wine, hiding their wine, because they were, the fact that people built caves and then hid those caves because that was who they are as a family, trapped inside that bottle. That is our work. That is our ethos. That is where our family is located differently than anywhere else. This is our combination of grapes in which we planted them. We are going to harvest them. We make one wine, even if you're our neighbor, and on all four sides, what we do is unique and special and different and doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And this is something we need to keep, is something we need to protect, and we need to hide from these horrible people. And it's hard in this day and age to explain that to anybody, where you and I are sitting here,
Are we going to protect a Walkman in the future? Are we going to protect a DVD player?
What is worth protecting?
There's nothing to protect.
There's art. Even music. The fact that most music is digital, if that goes, we're losing all of this.
Done,
right? That's a scary, next level scenario to this, but it remains so tactile. It remains so ancient. It remains so familial, because great wines, and I don't know any of this, and you could probably speak with hours, but the generational lineage of what they have learned over time in specific places that said, okay, whoa, something special is happening here. Something special is happening actually up there and over there. Not so much here, but there and there. And then how they have handed down that information, what to do, what to grow, where to grow it. If this happens, do this. When you should pick, what you should look like, the Farmer's Almanac that they have. I'm only 25 years into this. And the fact that I've learned all that in 25, I can make different decisions today than over there. And if a next generation's coming up, and if they're interested in that, I have a whole bunch of information to give them that we've been doing 3 generations.
That's your that's your motto.
Yeah.
That you put on the bottles. Let's face it, the new world is in the early cycle of all this, but you are doing the exact same thing that these farmers did in the turn of the century.
But they weren't wrong.
No, they weren't wrong.
And we keep happening faster, and like Cali Red comes out or whatever, but I think that the beauty of what we get to do is,
well, that's the question I asked Matt. It took him a minute.
Well, let's hear it.
I asked this question.
Oh, if you're stumping Matt, I'm in.
Yeah, well, it takes a minute because it sort of divides the Cali Reds and the Martha Stewart Chardonnays from the thing you're doing.
Well, what you're talking about is soulless commerce.
Right. So now, what if profit had nothing to do with wine? Profit
has to be in wine.
Well, no, it does now. But let's just say, take a theoretical approach. Would wine be different? Would the approach be different? And in fact, I said this to Matt. And
yes,
he's like, yeah.
I believe wine would be worse if there was no profit involved.
So you think that the capitalism of wine or the profitability of wine would, I guess, the competition, the
pressure,
we don't care,
pressure.
Because there's a comment from the Burgundian just after World War I when they were creating some of the appellations, and he said in the meeting, in the appellation meeting, saying, "Look, we shouldn't even advertise. People should bang a door to our. We should make the best wine we can, and people will come."
Yeah.
So that would suggest to me that way.
I don't advertise.
We're still going to make good wine then.
Well, back to why did I get into this? Feed kids, and take care of my wife.
So you got to be able to sell something.
Buy all of our fruit from our own property. Make sure everybody's taken care of, so that when I sell a bottle out the front door, I know the chain of people that is taken care of from plow to porch. That's it. So when you say, like, why am I here today? right? I love talking to you. It was an awesome thing, but I want 10 more people minimum, to find out about us and get in their car and drive 150 miles.
Sure.
So when you say, if we took out profit, hunger and a need to succeed. I needed to succeed in this business like I was being held underwater, like I needed to breathe. Like that's the level of commitment I had to this has to work. I told my wife flat out in the kitchen, I'm either going to be a success at this or I'm going to die trying. And when you have profit, when you have the ability, when the carrot is there that you go, if I get up and I outwork, if I work 12 hours and everybody else is working 8 or 4, I'm going to gain on them. And I'm going to gain. My goal is not to be the biggest. I never said that. But my goal is to be as efficient as possible, to be able to put as many wines in people's hands as possible, that they buy from us for 13 years. I mean, our tasting room's been open 13, 14 years. We have I won't give you the percentage, but a massive percentage of people who signed up year 1 are still in. And is that because I make the best wine in the world? No. I'm not the best. Far from it. But I want to be the people's champ, right? Yep. I want them to know, like when I post pictures of us picking and my daughter's there and family's there, people say, why do you post pictures of all that? I said, because no other winery can. Because I'm out here doing it.
That's right.
And I think that is worth something. I think being out there,
it's everything.
It's the reason you do it. Yeah. If you want to hit a home run in the 9th inning or whatever, you have to be the person that is addicted to the cage. You want to go in there and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit, so that when you go and step into a box, you look at someone and you go, I'm about to devour your lunch. And you'll tell them, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. And because at that point you have to succeed. Not only do you want to succeed, you have to. So the profit in wine, our wines aren't exorbitant. All of my wine, and I probably shouldn't say it on the show, but it's all supply and demand driven. The less I have, if I'm selling out too quickly, the price is too low. If I'm selling out too slowly, I should lower the price. That's it. That's how I price every single one of our wines. That's it. I know what's coming down the pipe, and then the numbers slide up and down.
So I suppose then.
And by the way, I want to go back to your biblical thing because I really want to talk about
that.
Sorry, I'm giving long answers to short questions.
No, not at all. I think it's we need. First of all, it's harder to run a podcast when I only get one-word answers. So I can just tell you that right now.
Well, keep it rolling, man. I literally have nothing to do today. I'm here to do this.
We'll go another 15 minutes or so. We can break this into 2, actually.
I'm here to answer every question.
They found a winery in Armenia 8,000 years old.
Yeah.
6,000 years old. Shoes, amphora, the whole thing. And so there's a whole bunch of places you could take that direction of that finding, because wine was an important part of life then. You could probably predict what the best vintages were. Like they've determined King Tut's tomb. He had certain vintages, 5 BC or something, and that was a good vintage. Obviously, the king's going to drink the good stuff, right?
Sure.
So, but the Bible said that Noah landed the ark on Mount Ararat, and that's
first thing he did.
Yeah. Of course, he became drunk, and we don't talk about that part.
We should talk about that part.
We know what if it's vitis vinifera, all the classifications, all long before that. And so it's been part of our life forever.
Yeah.
And is in the Bible in many, many cases. But we were laughing a little bit off camera when at a sermon, my son-in-law is an Anglican priest, and his father was our pastor, and he was talking about when Jesus turned water into wine. And I quickly calculated. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm in the pew with the calculator. I go, what's the size of this thing? I Googled I forgot the vessel that they had back then.
How many cubits?
Yeah. And I determined that there were 3,500 people at the wedding.
For 7 days.
For 7 days.
Yeah.
And based on today's consumption. Now, I don't know if they drank more or less back then, but...
My guess is more.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but then it goes, okay, but that means the whole village came, right? Isn't that what they did?
It was a party when you were cracking out the wine. You were saving this for years and years. And when you're going to throw this thing, you don't throw a party for one night now. It was a festival, basically.
Right.
That's a great
festival.
way to put it. Yep.
So that actually, we've had 2 weddings at my home. both my younger daughters. And, the wine guys having the wedding, and these were big affairs.
Oh, yeah.
I made sure
Yes.
that this was not wedding wine, so to speak. This was going to be like people have to go, wow, I'm going to Paul's house for the wine. I'm trying to show off, but it wasn't because of that.
I'm well aware of that pressure.
Okay, so here, Heather Comment, we're going to get into what you said earlier about Mary.
Oh, yeah.
But on that dovetail, that conversation, I tell people that are putting on weddings, why in any remote sense would you skimp on the wine? Take it away from the valet guy or take it away from the band.
Yeah.
But why would you want people to come away from your wedding, your celebration of your daughter or son's wedding, and go, man, the wine sucked? Mm-hmm. Why would you do that? And so we went to a wedding in Temecula, and they were pouring Aldi's Blind Owl. It was absolutely unpalatable.
Yep.
Just get rid of the valet person. Let them park themselves, and they'll come back and say, wow, this is a great wedding.
It's a great wedding, yeah.
So we were talking about the wedding, when Jesus turned water to wine. You had a story about that.
So
it was interesting.
Well, my whole theory behind this one is, number one, that Mary. I should probably preface by saying, I'm trying to look at the Bible through 2023 eyes, and when people usually picture God, they picture a Renaissance painting, floating and long beard, and that's I've radically changed that notion in my mind. And just like you and I are having this great conversation here, if we go back years and years and years, people were having conversations similarly, right? Connection is never going to go out of style. So my theory behind this one is, number one, this party's been going on for 7 days. Number one, Mary's been there for 7 days. So I'm not trying to do everything I can to not offend Catholics, but Mary was having a good time at a wedding, and the things she comes to her son about, someone that she was told by an angel is the Son of God, virgin birth, the whole deal, says, you have to do something. We're out of wine. So that is
perspective is amazing, really.
Perspective, right? So that means Mary goes like this: this party's awesome. I want to keep it going. We're out of wine. I bet my son can do something about this, right? So runs over, and they even have a little debate about it, where it's like, this is not my time. What are you doing? Kind of a thing. And she's like, come on, do the thing, which tells me that at some point that was the first public miracle.
Yeah.
But Jesus was turning water into wine for his mother, probably
right, which is great. I mean, it's just a great story. Who else? But really, seriously, when you think about it, and your interpretation of that story would be, who else would have convinced him to do it?
Nobody. His mom. Like, I always think about that situation. We had a wedding. My brother's wedding a reception was up there, and the booze was gone within literally an hour of this party. And my mom comes running down. She goes, "You need to go to the store. She handed a roll of money, and she goes, just buy everything you can." And we literally did. We drove down there. This is a great story because Adam Firestone was there, and we were just throwing wine into a cart at El Rancho. My two buddies, Matt Pegg, Cliff Jason, throwing it in there, and he goes, "What are you buying, boys?" Like that. And this is a great sales story because he goes, "Oh, we're just grabbing this," and they ran out of wine. He goes, "Hey, put that back." He put it all back and started grabbing Firestone wine and throwing it into the thing, and he goes, "You buy that. That's better."
That's funny.
What a salesman. So
was Brooks still around at that point?
Brooks is still around.
Is he? I didn't realize that.
If you want me to go into like a 2-minute diatribe about the guy, I mean, Brooks is a friend. The entire Firestone family is amazing, but Brooks Firestone, 1973, leaves Firestone Tires because he was in Europe. I'm going to brutalize the story, but was in Europe selling tires for Firestone. This is Grandpa's company, kind of a thing. And he saw steel belted radials coming in, and he comes back to Ohio and says, "Hey, we need to do this, or we're gonna get our lunch eaten by these other tire companies." And that was hubris of, "We're Firestone, we know what we're doing."
Right.
He goes, "Well," and he left the company. My grandma worked here on Firestone Boulevard during World War II. That's now the Citadel.
Yeah, right. That's
making Firestone.
Beautiful,
beautiful. And Brooks left there, came up to the San Ynez Valley in early 70s and planted the first established the Santa Barbara County AVA. Basically, between there and Zaca Mesa, and he buckshotted, Pinot next to Cab, and really was the moon landing of wine in Santa Barbara County. And because of that passion, crazy, Brooks is an amazing guy, passionate. Now he sings in choirs around the world.
He
and
probably was in France, saw the Michelin people who's out now promoting food, with their Michelin guide in 1929, whenever they started that. He's going, wait a minute.
Oh.
But it's funny because this is the honest part of this business that we don't have anymore. We don't see it. And in my early days of doing this, when I went to a big trade tasting, Brooks was pouring.
Yeah. And why was he there? Why was he there? Why?
You would answer the question.
No, I want to know why. Because he was passionate about the thing he was doing.
Of course, yeah, right.
I mean, there.
Dick. Look, that tasting, I think it was Wine Warehouse at the time.
Yeah, let's go.
It was Dick Sanford poured.
Okay, yeah.
Fess Parker.
Was it Eli or Fess?
Fess.
Okay.
He poured. He would hand out pictures of him as Daniel Boone and sign them for you. I still have it somewhere in here.
Chris Parker, by the way, nice plug, has Third Window Brewing and the best burger in the world. Fess's grandson.
Okay, grandson. Okay.
Unbelievable guy.
Dick Smothers poured.
Yeah. Which is Foxen.
Huh?
Dick Smothers?
Foxen.
Yes.
Dick, the Smothers brothers had their own winery.
Oh, okay. Sorry, but
Yeah.
I would think Foxen would probably be there around that time.
I don't remember, but as Dick and Tommy Smothers were celebrities.
Right.
And Pat Paulson,
Okay.
who ran for president in 1968, he was pouring. And I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, Adrian Lissinger," because he was on Get Smart as this character. He goes, "Yeah, I was a really good murderer then." And I'm like, and they were so. Here's the difference, and it goes back to what you asked me, which is they weren't celebrities behind the tasting table.
Yeah.
They were farmers and winemakers.
Yeah.
And they were so approachable.
Yep.
They didn't care. Pat Paulson had a wine called Refrigerator White. And when I brought it up with Monty Montgomery, his son, we laughed and laughed because who remembers this stuff, right? But there was an honesty about it.
But the one thing that while you were telling that unbelievable capture in time, there's also something that's very similar about all those people. Like Fess Parker, beautiful singer,
Really?
He would have, when the Fess Parker Inn was in Los Olivos on a Wednesday night, when Fess was around and his wife was around, they would play around a piano, and all their friends would go in and do that. It was never, I went with my dad a few times. He goes, "Hey, let's go hear the golden era of movies." Okay. And then you go in there, and the guy playing piano, Powell. He was a superintendent at the Rancho Sisquoc School, which is in the middle of nowhere up Foxen Canyon. He was a superintendent, but he would play the piano for Fess and for their thing. And all Fess's buddies, that golden era, would come in and sing around the piano.
Wow.
In there, okay, like chilling, right? The only person I ever saw my father-in-law get tongue-tied around was Fess Parker, right? But then you take the Smothers Brothers, you take, I'll throw Brooks in there because those are all artists. Those are artist souls. Those are people that want to conjure something into existence that did not exist before.
Good point.
That to me. Now, if you want to find the heart and soul of wine, the thing that's not a beverage, the thing that isn't, Cali Red or a cash grab, it's people like that find something worth doing, that they love it all the way through. And I think, in a world of curation, not creation, right now it's easy to be an Instagram influencer and then give your opinion on everything else. Yelp has done that, all the stuff, all the things where it's like, you're not the one in the arena, but you are going to comment on it, right?
Something has to break.
Well,
every time I get these freaking Instagram and TikTok,
right.
and I'm there. I mean, our company's there anyway. Something has to break.
But I think the break point is authenticity. It's harder to find. It truly is. But like today, I'm here because I want to tell people what we do. And I'm like, I've told you, I just threw out like 80 other names of other people that are in our wine region that are awesome, and you should probably go see them too. But it's still, the great part about it is this. It took me less than 2 hours to get here in Monday morning traffic. And there's 13 million people.
Lucky.
I know. There's however many people in Southern California. And what they don't know is probably the best and most, we were 2021 Wine Region of the Year. Within 2 hours, you have the most hardcore, street level people that are just like me, passionate out of their minds about what they're doing. And the greatest punk rock wine region in the world is less than 2 hours away from your doorstep.
And Los Olivos is really quaint, fun place. Go to Bob's Bakery, all
Totally.
that stuff. Really, really, we were there not too long ago, and I hadn't been for years and years and years.
Best food in California is in our valley. It's unbelievable.
But that's something which just says very important to the extent of what this is. I was thinking about these people that we were just talking about, the Fest Parkers of the world.
Yep. Sorry, we're bouncing all over the place.
Well, it was a different time for wine, and I'm going to tie this together, but it was a different time for wine. It was a more honest time. It was certainly the ISA tastings, the giant tastings. They're all trying to market their wines.
Sure.
But there was a certain authenticity and humility about it that without the Saarloos,
Carlos with an S, Saarloos. Makes it easier.
Saarloos' Sons wines and others like that from Los Olivos will lose that humility because the pre-Judgment of Paris, wine was very honest.
Yep.
There was nothing else for it to be.
Yep.
Post-Judgment of Paris, it still took 10 years. I mean, even Jim Barrett didn't retire from his legal practice till like 1986.
Yep.
Like 10 years later. So, and here, then we entered the realm of commercialism. If I was to put a moniker on what the timeline, Sutter Home's White Zinfandel, and then the idea of formula wines, and then Apothic Reds are now, and all those things. Without the Saarloos and Sons, and people like you in Los Olivos and other parts of the country, we're going to lose that humility. We're going to lose that honesty about the wine business. If it falls in the hands of the Winks, the Naked Wines, we're destined for it. And I have this theory. Let me finish.
Okay,
one thing. I have this theory, and this is the irony between the millennials who drink White Claw, but it's at the same time say they want sustainable organic things in their life. Right? It makes no sense. Sometime, at some point in someone's life, because of what you're doing and hopefully what I'm doing, that aha moment happens with a glass of wine, and it'll never go away. I think it's so embedded in the human soul,
absolutely,
based on what we talked about, that it can't go away. It will never go away.
I think that whenever there are people that are doing it the right way for the right reasons, that will always be envious to people that see an opportunity with money, with whatever, without a true, honest thing, there would be nothing to replicate. Like anybody who copies me is at least a year behind, right? So I'm going to keep plowing ahead, doing what I do. Like I see people rip off my labels, try to do what I do, but I go, you're a year behind because I'm already working on 2 years from now. And that opportunity of commercialism, of soulless capitalism, of, well, if we jump on this right now and it's happening in a boardroom and there's the people in the boardroom making the decisions and finding the money, they're finding money from other people, they're giving it to other people, they're okay, we're going to make 10% on this, and if it fails, no one cares. Without that authenticity, right? Without the great things like like the Main Street, like old towns, right? Now they build malls that look like old towns.
That's right.
It's true. But the part that I will always love, and going back to it is, when you step into an old bar and it has a good vibe, and people are nice, bartender kind of remembers you, and you're like, I want to come back here. There could be there's a Chili's right next door. Still same bar, same all this corporate bullshit and everything else. The beauty part about wine is it is unemployable. The people who work in wine that truly love it are absolutely unemployable people. They will show up late, they will leave this, they will give you their heart and soul, but they're not the most reliable. It's like surfers, right? If the waves are good, they're gone. The part that I love is it's impossible you have to be a pirate to do what we do. You can't be in the Navy. Because why is it awesome? Because this is its own pirate ship, right? You're selling the wines you want to sell. You're putting the things on the wall that you want to do. Why are you here talking to me in the morning? Because you have something to say. You wanted to create something that didn't exist yesterday, and here it is. Here it is right in front of us today. The graffiti on the wall says so much about it because it means like it is anti everybody else. It's pro you. You made it say what you wanted to say, but you didn't do it by printing something off at Kinko's. You had an artist come in, throw it up on the wall, create it, but it said the thing you want to say. And when you walk in, you go, isn't that awesome? It's great. That could be ripped off instantly tomorrow, but the place, it's like saying, I want to buy your house because I want your life. It doesn't work that way. And I think with wine, especially, too small to fail.
It reminds me, he said that, and I appreciate your observation of what this place is.
Yeah. Well, I hope I got it right.
Because, when I thought through it, my wife's like what I'm trying to do in the lobby when you walk down all that red and the gold, I'm sort of trying to rip off Jean-Charles Boisset and what he's done because I'm a Francophile and I love this opulent French stuff. And she's like, what are you talking about? It doesn't fit. But she did shut me down on part of it because you're talking about how wise our wives are and we use them. But I thought to myself, am I going to put the wood panels and the wood racks? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. No. So forget it.
But as a fellow one pirate to another, I recognized it immediately.
Right away. It was amazing. But it's kind of like Applebee's where they they take some
Cracker
local
Barrel
pictures and they put them on this is really what they did.
Yeah, I know.
When you walk into the restaurant, if it's in Monrovia, there's some old pictures of Monrovia. But once you get past that lobby,
they're done.
It's corporate America again.
That's totally it.
It's like 12 microwaves. We're gonna have to wrap this up, but we're gonna have to do it again for sure. But I'm gonna ask you this funny. This is a fun book. This is called "Wine is the Best Medicine." It's a book by a French doctor. The answers are French. The answers to the questions we're gonna give you are French wines. Okay, so I don't do this for everybody because particularly Italian winemakers. But he was a homeopathic doctor as well as an MD, and he's come up with a whole bunch of maladies, human maladies like allergies, anemia, bronchitis, etc., and the proper French wine cure.
Sure.
Now this is kind of like the Master of Wine test and the Master Somm test, which is the answer yes or no. I mean, the answer.
How many of the answers are port? Number one.
None. Because it's not French.
Oh, sorry.
So the key is justifying the answer.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, it's not about.
Remember, it's not lying if you believe it.
Nobody gets it right. No, the number of people who get this question right is exactly the percentage chance, which is 33%. Okay. So let's just say, let's say you have hypertension.
Oh, I do have hypertension.
Okay, so you can have a young Beaujolais, and there's also a dosage to this. A young Beaujolais.
Okay.
A Sancerre.
Is Grenache in there?
Or a Saint-Emilion.
Oh.
So no, Grenache in there.
So what? Those are my three choices? Beaujolais.
A Beaujolais, a Sancerre, or a Saint-Emilion would help your hypertension.
Yep.
Which one?
Beaujolais.
Why? What is it about Beaujolais you think that's...
Well, when I think about a Beaujolais, what I usually think of is a spring afternoon... relaxing, soft, beautiful.
Well, okay, so you're talking about an emotional relationship.
Well, yeah, I think I would say as a medicinal, like when I asked like Grenache, right? It's like Grenache to me is always that when you are really stressed out, the only thing you want to be is feel that freedom of being 18 and not have any pressure, right? And I always think of Grenache as being that beautiful catch-all. It's a farmer's grape. It's a winemaker's grape. It's a drinker's grape. It's in pretty much everything. And when you drink it, it's youthful and soft, and it's not dragging it's not a cat
it's
getting
funny you say
drawn
that,
across your table.
I'm using the cheat sheet because the book's got a lot more, but none of the answers are Rhone varietals in any of these things. I just realized that after you brought that up.
Well, now that's my insert. My insert with hypertension. What
okay, so this is a medical doctor.
How did I do?
So now I would have said Beaujolais because I would have said maybe Côte de Pie, volcanic soil, whatever minerals.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Totally out of my depth on that one. I know Ballard Canyon pretty well, but
right here, so same difference.
Yeah.
The answer was Sancerre, and the reason was these wines are a diuretic, and they cause release of urethral chlorides and uric acid. Okay, so more importantly, what do you think the dosage is? Like how much?
Well, here's the real question: are we talking about glasses of wine? Or are we talking
they're French? I mean, they're substantial.
So I'd probably say bottle.
Yeah, it's a bottle.
Hey,
a day.
Perfect. Hey, as we like to say to every one of our customers, a bottle a day is all we ask.
Yeah, that's the old almond commercial.
That's right.
Keith, has been fabulous.
I've
have you here.
By the way, thank you for having me.
We can do it again.
Anytime.
Maybe we'll come up and see a Ballard Canyon. I have this. I take this whole setup. I bring it to this winery.
We'd love to set you up.
How many people on a weekend do you get up there?
Oh, we just had the worst rain.
Yeah,
in
like
January.
a regular weekend,
how many people are coming through?
Yeah,
like our tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
On a good spring Saturday.
A lot, but not too many.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a weird way to put it, where the thing that we have overcome now, I know this is off top, but we offered a lot of reservations, and reservations are mostly, hey, we'll make sure we have a seat for you. And like going through the pandemic and everything else, I, trashed my backyard, rebuilt it, put, places so people can sit. I won't say.
Here's a thought, because I just got the phone with Rex Pickett, the guy that wrote Sideways.
Yeah.
A great guy. He was an old friend. He was on my show way back when and told some great stories. But what he's been doing, and this will lead to what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Because Napa is so expensive to taste wines now, $8,500. I mean, how can you afford to do it?
Yep.
That now they're offering experiences with these tastings. And John Charles, I brought him up. He's a good friend, and I respect the guy's business acumen intensely and his wine. His father was responsible for some of the best Burgundies in the world. Has added him as part of the experience. So you can go to, let's say, Buena Vista and hang out with Rex Pickett, the guy who wrote Sideways, and hear all the stories. And so they've added an experience to this tasting.
Cool. Yeah.
So here's the experience. They come up one weekend on Ballard Canyon. They walk into your tasting room, and there's Keith and Paul with the microphones.
Oh yeah,
having
we can
a
totally
conversation,
do that. Totally
recording from and my wife has always said, why don't you put little seats here and let your customers come and listen?
I have a perfect backyard. I'd be happy to promote it to our wine club and everybody else, and have a little get together and say, hey, this is
what we're doing. It'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, I'd love it. It'd be great.
Okay.
And quite honestly, if you line up a couple more people from the area, they'd probably love it too.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for the honor.
That is the longest podcast we've ever. 88
I could have talked to you for 5 hours, man.
We'll do it again
anytime.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.